Dobry wieczór Państwu, witamy w codziennym programie telewizyjnym NDTV. A dzisiaj naszymi gośćmi są ponownie dr Tomasz Bojko oraz mecenas Krail z Tomasz and Krail Law Firm we Freehold, New Jersey. Witam serdecznie. Thank you again for coming to our show. Jak poprzednio, nasz program będzie troszeczkę po polsku, troszeczkę po angielsku, ponieważ jest to kancelaria prawnicza, która oferuje usługi w obu tych językach, stąd może łatwiej niektórym naszym rodakom będzie się porozumieć z prawnikami. Mecenas Krail zajmuje się różnymi aspektami prawa, od prawa rodzinnego, tak jak na przykład rozwody, zatrzymania przez policję, o czym dzisiaj będzie mowa. To duży temat prawa. Doktor Bojko, który jest i prawnikiem, i lekarzem. Może ja pozwolę doktorowi powiedzieć, w czym doktor się specjalizuje, bo to są też ciekawe rzeczy, szczególnie dla Polaków, bo związane są z Polską.
No, jako lekarzem specjalizowałem się w pediatrii, a teraz specjalizuję się w Ameryce w prawie zdrowotnym, ale chyba bardziej interesujące dla Państwa jest, że specjalizujemy się też w Polsce z opieką lekarską, medyczną i dla Polaków, rodaków, którzy mieszkają w Polsce, i dla turystów medycznych, ewentualnie ze Stanów. Pomagamy z kontaktami z lekarzami, z szpitalami w kraju i też współpracujemy bardzo blisko z kancelarią adwokacką w Warszawie, która ma też branżę po całej Polsce i możemy pomóc w różnych sprawach legalnych, które Państwo mogliby potrzebować, pomóc w sprawach nieruchomości, sprawach rodzinnych w Polsce, sprawach majątków, które mam nadzieję Państwo mają w Polsce albo mogliby mieć w Polsce. I możemy to naprawdę ułatwić, ten cały proces, bo jak wiadomo, jeszcze biurokracja w Polsce istnieje, jeszcze nie zniknęła. Także...
A poza tym podróże do Polski dużo kosztują, prawda? Za każdym razem, jak musimy się kontaktować z prawnikiem w Polsce, kupowanie biletu byłoby bardzo kosztowne.
Właśnie i oczywiście podróż jest kosztowna i cały przebyt może być kosztowny.
Nie zawsze możemy urlop wziąć.
Tak, i my tam naprawdę możemy to uprościć i skrócić ten cały proces przez podpisywanie dokumentów tutaj notaryzowanych w Polsce, w Ameryce, i potem możemy z kancelarią w Warszawie pomóc Wam przez tą biurokrację trochę przebrnąć łatwiej.
Okay, so let's move to the topic of our today's program, which is being stopped by the police. And it could be in different situations, either driving on the road or anywhere in the city, in a club, in a restaurant, for maybe causing a nuisance or being accused of being a nuisance. I want to find out what our rights are, like how we should behave, what to say, what not to say. And thank God we have a lawyer here who deals with cases like that on a daily basis. So what happens when we get pulled over or stopped by police?
Sure, if you're pulled over by the police, I mean, you don't have to necessarily answer their questions. You can say that you plead the Fifth Amendment and you don't want to answer the questions. The police officer should tell you why they're pulling you over. They should give you a reason. They can't just necessarily stop you for no reason. There has to be something that, whether it be a traffic violation, a moving violation, that gave them the indication that they should pull you over, and then from there they kind of maybe figure out something else. Maybe something's in your car that's in plain view that they gives rise to them searching your vehicle.
If they don't, do we have a right to ask them, why are you pulling me out over?
Yes, you do have the right to ask them. They should tell you, but you do have the right to ask them what you have done to cause them to stop you. It's definitely a good question to ask. But you don't have to answer their questions. You do have rights in that manner.
What if the police officer is administering the alcohol test and we've pleaded the Fifth Amendment and we're not going to say anything? Do we have to submit to the test?
Not necessarily. I mean, you can refuse it. Sometimes it doesn't play out as well when you do refuse it. So it may be best in your circumstance to take the test, to take the breathalyzer test.
And what if it turns out that we've been drinking? What kind of big trouble are we in big trouble? And how to get out of it?
Sure. I mean, there are certain defenses. If you have been drinking, the police officer will go through a series of tests. Then maybe they'll bring you down to the police station. There could be defenses. There could be maybe a technicality that would be helpful to have an attorney kind of look at the police report and kind of navigate that to see if they did. There are steps that they need to follow. So if you have the attorney to kind of review all that information and then bring it to the court, discuss it with the prosecutor.
Do we need the attorney right away as we're brought to the police station, or after we're released, we can do a research and find an attorney that we think we'll like and who will take care of our case?
Sure. If you're at the police station and you don't want to answer questions, you certainly have the right to get an attorney. So you can ask them right then and there that you want an attorney to represent you. If everything, you kind of just go through the process and you leave the police station, I would say you should call around to some attorneys to find someone to help you, because it can be very difficult to kind of figure out how to you're going into court. It's a municipal court, you're dealing with a prosecutor, you're dealing with a judge. There's just some intricacies that maybe you're not familiar with.
Regular people, lay people, just don't know how to navigate through the court system or the legal system. There's a lot of terms that we don't know.
And if I can just jump in,
Sure.
That the sooner you get an attorney, it's probably the better, because the less you say to the police, it's usually the better. There's very little that you can say at that moment when you're stopped that is going to help your case, but there's a lot that you can say that's going to make it really, really bad.
Can we mention?
The sooner you say you don't want to say anything, and one of the ways to make them not ask you any more questions without you appearing to refusing to say, is to say that you want an attorney, because at that point they're not allowed to ask you any more questions until the attorney arrives. So this is a way to kind of get around maybe you're intimidated and you don't want to say or not to answer the policeman, but if you say, well, I want an attorney, they are not allowed to ask you any. And if they do ask you questions during that time, those questions and answers are not going to be admissible in court.
And does the police have to take a note that you've said that I don't want to, I plead the fifth and I don't want to answer any questions?
The only time that comes into play is if they've read you your rights and they want, and you're saying you don't want to invoke any of those rights, and they need to get a waiver that you voluntarily, knowingly understand that you're waiving your rights. That's when there should be something formalized or a document that states that. And
that scenario concerns both being pulled over by the police officer on the road while we're driving, and also in situations like, I don't know, a collapsing or I don't know, shoplifting.
Or sure, if they bring you into the station and they're asking you questions, yes, that would be when that would come into play.
Does it ever happen that people are arrested but they haven't committed the crime, and what happens then? How hard is it to prove that we're not guilty?
Sure. I mean, it does happen. I'm sure, numerous times where people, maybe they suspect someone of shoplifting, and then they arrest them and bring them down to the police station. I would say at that point, that person would want to get an attorney to help them fight that, because the police, they're going to need proof. They're going to have to submit proof, to the prosecutor to say this is what this person did, and you're going to want an attorney to fight that. And there's defenses to that. It does happen, but you can defend yourself.
And that's one of those very strong cases when we do need a lawyer,
exactly,
not to be wrongfully convicted or charged with anything. And since a lot of our viewers are immigrants with open cases, for example, how dangerous are those DUIs or just contact in police with police in situations like the club scene. To what extent can it jeopardize our immigration case?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, even with just small cases in municipal court can impact the immigrant's status, especially like the DWI, even drug possession. If it's certain amount of drugs that the person has in their possession, that could potentially greatly impact their immigration case. So you're going to want an attorney at that point to really help you figure out how best to navigate not only just the municipal court but your immigration status.
Can we do something like, I'm thinking of exoneration or something else to sort of swipe it off our record before we proceed with our immigration case in order not to go into bigger trouble like deportation?
Well, we do have expungement, and there are certain crimes, if you want to call them, or disorderly persons offenses that can be expunged or wiped away from your record. Unfortunately, I think most of the time with immigration, they don't get fully wiped away. It really depends on the situation, but most of the time it remains there. And even just in general, if someone is arrested and let's just say the ultimate fine is dismissed, you still have the arrest on your record, which will need to be expunged or wiped away. So it's definitely beneficial to have an attorney help you figure that all out.
And another way that an attorney can be helpful in this case is to help you plead down from maybe what could be potentially a felony to a misdemeanor, which might affect much less your immigration status. Felonies are almost automatic as far as either not approving your immigrant status or actually having to be deported. Whereas, with a misdemeanor, you can, you have much better chances of getting your status, approved or not being deported.
Thank you very much for another show. Dziękuję bardzo. Z panem doktorem Bojko oraz mecenas Krail jeszcze się spotkamy w następnym programie. Porozmawiamy m.in. o sprawach imigracyjnych, ale też o jeszcze kilku innych sprawach. Dziękuję.
Dziękujemy.